All right, so today is Tuesday, September 22nd. I'm here at Kick Butt Coffee in Austin, North Austin, Texas. I'm here with my buddy Charles, who
Hey
is
there,
also a trainer.
How's it going?
So today's video, we're going to do a little bit of an interview. So the interview, just kind of talk about some general stuff, but most importantly, Charles, I want to start out by asking you kind of what got you into fitness. Give me a little bit of your background story, and what kind of got you started?
What got me started into fitness was just recently, a couple years ago. When I was younger as a kid, I was a really avid runner, and I loved just running and making, like, I'll be on a bicycle and kind of acting like I was one of the cars in Fast and the Furious.
Okay.
I just loved the adrenaline I would get just by thinking I'm passing cars in the street.
Okay.
That went on well for a good years up until middle school.
Okay.
I started getting into the wrong crowd. People were bullying me. My self-esteem started dropping up to a point where you could consider me like a mute, which is a stark contrast to what we trainers do now in order to get more business. So that went on for a good years up until high school. I didn't finish school, of course. I dropped out. It wasn't because I was a failure. Like, I didn't think about things like that. But I really tried to improve myself, and I just couldn't. I would always think about what everybody else would be doing, and that would kind of make me feel bad. So the next year, not the next year, but a couple years later, I'm like 24, 25, we could say. This is a couple years back. I started working for a company, distributing beer and stuff like that. I guess it's to a point where I just got fed up with everything. Beer made me feel like I was something more of myself, but in fact it was the opposite. It was making more of what you already are, as opposed to actually improving. So, I got into drinking heavily. It was every day. I hated the hangovers. I would be shaking. And at some point when I was working for the company, I got into GOATs. I met
Where did you start? What position did you start?
At this other company, it was I was
at Gold's.
at Gold's. I started as a housekeeper.
Housekeeper. Okay, and how much did you weigh back then?
Back then, it was 260. It was nearing 300.
And how tall are you?
5'10".
5'10".
Yeah.
So, and then how much do you weigh now?
Right now, I weigh around 170, 160.
So you're about 100 pounds lighter.
Yes.
And how long did that transformation take?
The amazing thing about that transformation, the first 60 pounds were like in 6 months.
Wow.
So everything was done less than a year. And this is also how I got into training,
Okay.
I got good trainers who really saw, the potential in me. They saw that I was changing, and wanting that same gift they bestowed upon me, that God bestowed upon you. We're giving to these other people, and hopefully they realize they too can make a change.
Yeah.
Within just a little span of time.
Well,
of course.
And I think one of the cool things about Charles's story is just your patience and your ability to kind of stick with it. So
consistency was really
a
tough
very
one.
consistent. And your timeline was pretty long, right? For a pretty big transformation like that, it takes more time.
Yes.
So, and it's been pretty cool to see you kind of come full circle into now you're actually training people yourself.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. Now, one of the things that, obviously we're in the middle of a pandemic. What is like kind of the most important thing to keep in mind right now as far as the pandemic for people that are kind of struggling to stay in shape? Like, what would be your advice?
My advice would be, start getting into, some exercises that you love to do and keep consistent. Because people ask me, how do you stay so motivated? How do you keep on training, yourself and then training other people? And I tell them, Well, why do we sit in front of a TV? Why do we read books and stuff like that? Because we love to do it.
Yeah.
So choose exercises, that are good for you, and that you're gonna continue to do them.
Right.
And this is one of the aspects that I used during the pandemic as well. The gyms weren't open just quite yet, and what I started doing was using our backyard, which is like an acre and a half more or less. Just running outside, flipping tractor tires, small ones, mind you, body weight exercises. There's a plethora of information which
And
me and
those-
Eric could also.
Yeah, and would
know.
you say that those are all things that you enjoy doing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So, and I think that's one of the main things and this is why I wanted to get Charles on here, is that not only has he made incredible progress, but one of the things that I've always been impressed with Charles is his attitude. This is not an act.
Yeah.
This is how he is.
This is how I am. I'm always like, let's get it.
So, and I think his clients really feed off of that. And
yeah.
unfortunately, trainers like Charles are really hard to find, to actually have that genuine excitement, genuine enthusiasm and passion. But one of the things that, I think is important to kind of take away from his story is that he's always found things that are enjoyable. And that's kind of what keeps him coming back.
Yeah.
Like we used to work out together before the pandemic, and I was kind of showing Charles some of the way that I like to work out, a little more martial arts focused, because that's fun for me. All right, and I think that's kind of a big takeaway from this conversation is finding things that you enjoy doing. Even though right now things are weird, there's gyms are closed, people are scared. You can still, like Charles. I mean, he was doing stuff in his backyard. I mean, you just got to get creative.
Yeah, it's how I stayed in shape as well. People would ask me, how do you still look the same and stuff? And you still keep losing
Right.
weight and getting more marked and stuff like that. And then I tell them, well, this is what I was doing. What about you guys? They say, well, the gyms were closed and we were, locked at house, working from home. I was like, well, you could have done this, and this. They're like, really?
Yeah.
That realization, they're like, wow,
Yeah.
you actually kept your meta throughout the entire time.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I think to Charles's point, I think one of the main obstacles for most people is themselves. We can all make up excuses for why we can or can't do things. I don't have equipment, or I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where my goal with doing these videos is to kind of show people that, look, you already can do this. Like Charles did it in his backyard. I've been doing it at my house since March. So really, you are the limiting factor, is your own creativity. And again, I think find something you enjoy, but it's got to be consistent. Charles, how many days a week do you work out
So, for me,
on average?
on average, is 6, and if I want to go to a maximum, it would be 7 days.
Right. Okay.
And throughout a day, that would be around 3 workouts. I know it sounds a lot, but one of them is like a auxiliary workout. One's heavy, and then the next one's just pure, like just keeping up with, cardio and stuff
Right.
like that. Yeah.
So would you say that with your workouts, do they all fit into a larger program?
Yes, they do. It's all towards a goal and trying to, having every little piece kind of complement,
Right.
get there much faster than.
And I would say to that point too, like that's one thing I've noticed, especially since the pandemic has started. A lot of people are doing like apps, little workouts online.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Little bits and pieces, stuff they see on Instagram, and which is great. Something's better than nothing. But just keep in mind that you should always try to fit it into that greater context. Like, yeah,
Yes.
you may be thinking, how's
Wow,
he
that's
doing
a lot.
3
but,
workouts
but
a day?
It's all
Yeah.
for what
Right.
I want to accomplish.
Right,
Yeah.
and let's talk about those 3 workouts. Like, what's your intensity like for those workouts? Like, are they super intense? Are they like kind of medium, low intensity? Like,
So usually for me, I like to start off something light first. It'll be like, this could be like 30 minutes to an hour. Something light just to kind of get the blood flowing, and then in the middle of the day or whenever this happens, the second workout will be the heaviest one. It'll be explosive,
Okay.
CrossFit style, everything like boom, boom, boom. It'll be like 3 sections, and we try to accomplish everything in 1 hour. And then the last workout won't be something like as intense, but kind of like the first workout, but kind of like just to let the body kind of relax.
Got
you
it.
know.
So, you know, that kind of sounds like first one is a little bit of like a warm up for the day,
Yeah,
almost.
yeah.
The middle one is really your hard
The max
workout,
out, yeah.
and then the final one is more of like almost like a cool down for
Yeah,
the day.
yeah.
Which I love that,
Yeah, yeah.
and like that's one way of doing it.
And like Eric said,
Yeah.
mind you, I'm not saying, yeah, do these 3 workouts,
Right.
7. You want to be careful and really, like Eric said, what's the bigger picture? Is this sustainable for me right now? Is it going
Right.
to last long?
Well, and to that point too,
Yeah.
you know, Charles's journey started
Oh, yeah.
a couple of years ago. It's,
Yeah.
you know, since he,
Yeah.
you know, from the very beginning, and he kind of slid for a few years, but since he got back on the wagon, you know, it's been a few years. So now you're up to 3 workouts a day.
Yes.
But you didn't start out when you
Oh,
first
no.
got back into working out. What was it 1 workout a day,
It would be,
and then how many workouts a week?
it would
Like
be,
when you first started.
yeah, when I very first started,
Yeah.
it was with a trainer as well. I didn't know what I was doing, because otherwise I'll be just a person doing that hour on a treadmill. That's
Right,
how
right.
I was. And You
Right.
could lose weight that way too. Don't
Right.
get me wrong. But when I first started, it was like 1 workout per day, and as far as the frequency for the week, it will be just 3 days.
3 days. So, and I think that's an important thing to remember for most people right now during the pandemic. You know, probably haven't been doing much of anything.
Yeah.
Do not start out with 3 times a day.
Please don't.
Right.
As
This
ludicrous
is-
as it sounds.
Yeah, this is after years of conditioning.
Yes.
Now that's something that you could work up to, let's say after maybe 6 months, a year.
Yes.
But if you're starting from ground zero, maybe start with, I think, 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, Charles was 25 at that
Yeah,
time. So
yeah.
if you're 65
Oh yeah.
and
very-
you haven't done
yeah,
anything for the last couple of years, you know, maybe twice a week, about an hour each
Yeah,
time.
I'd say.
But the biggest thing is intensity, right? So
Yes.
kind of start easy.
Always pay attention on the intensity. Always start, like I say, smooth and steady. One of the things that probably Eric likes and many others is, you know, make it as elegant as possible. You know, you don't have to like do a lot of weight really fast. Just keep it high rep, low intensity,
Quality
low
over
level. Yeah,
quantity.
quality.
Yeah,
There you go.
Quality over quantity. Because again, if you're starting out a new program, you know, your chance of injury is really high.
Oh, yeah.
Again, your stamina is not that high. Strength's probably not that great.
Mm-hmm.
So focusing on good quality movements is really, again, fitting into that bigger picture. You know, we're not working out just for a few weeks. We want to do this for the rest of our lives, right? If we want these results to last. So I think starting slow, but again, like Charles was saying, focus on that quality of movement. And I think that's one thing I want to talk about, kind of wrap this up, is just general trends that I've noticed. And Charles, you can chime in. And again, I'm not trying to badmouth anybody, but you know, a lot of advertisements that I see, they're not really targeting the beginner in the way that I would target a beginner. So for example, like I see a lot of ads like on Instagram when I'm with my wife, and she'll show me these little programs, and you know, they'll have like a fitness model on there just slaying a workout, you know, making it look easy.
Let's do
these
50 burpees or
right,
something
and
crazy
these,
like
and
that.
these movements, like a burpee, great example. You know,
Very
five
complex.
burpees
Yeah.
for the average person who's sedentary, that's gonna kill them.
Yeah.
So, what would be your advice as far as like choosing a program, and how do you gauge if it's the right level of intensity or difficulty for you? How would you? What would be some things that you would try to look for?
Well, I'll tell you how I choose my programs, and this could be for anybody too. The way I choose it is, I see, of course, the bigger picture, but also I want to see what my limit is and not go past that limit. I know people say, you know, you'll pass out first before you die, but is there a necessary to pass out?
No.
Yeah, exactly. No. So that's my way to gauge a perfect workout program for me is, what's my limit? What can I handle? Are these movements that I am performing, you know, up to the quality that I want to achieve, not for the short term, but for the long term, so I could progress. That's the thing with these exercises. You want to progress. You don't want to start off like really heavy and you're like, yeah, I'm badass and stuff like that. No, you want to start off, what you can handle and what you feel is, making an overall improvement towards your,
And I love that point. I think it's important to humble yourself and to maybe start out easier than you would want to, and don't worry about what anybody else is doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the big issues too, like working out in a big gym.
I agree.
Is that you have all these people in a gym that they've been doing this stuff for decades or years, right?
Yeah.
And they look badass doing it. They're doing all these really heavy weights, with crazy movements. But if you haven't worked out, let's say in a month or more, which is a lot of people, you really got to start over, right? And it may feel embarrassing or lame or whatever. But ultimately, like Charles is saying, like it's more important to focus on the quality to start out, and don't worry about what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
Because you are you. Like Charles is Charles. Like what he's gonna do is not gonna be necessarily what I'm gonna do. And so don't lose sight of that. And it's okay to start really simple.
Yeah.
Like when you started out a couple of years ago, it was probably pretty simple stuff.
Very simple movements, like a few minutes on the treadmill, a few minutes on the machine, because I had no concept of repetitions and sets. That's another thing that
and keep in mind he was 25.
Yeah.
So if you're 40 or you're 50 or 60,
you still got a chance.
It's never too late. But your body's probably changed since the last time you did some exercise. So cut yourself some slack, and realize too, like this journey, it's lifelong. So allow that process to take shape and be patient.
Yes. And in the end of the day, guys, like Eric says, you're not there for anybody else. You're there for you. One quote that I love is, I don't know who wrote it, but, you write your story. Don't let anybody write what your legacy is going to be or how it's going to look like. And that's another thing. We don't know what the future holds, because the future is right now. What you decide to do for yourself right now, that's what's going to make you a better person in the future. Just keep that in mind whenever you're, using these programs or gyms or,
So if anybody wants to get in contact with Charles, tell him what's your email address, Charles?
My email address is charlesrodriguez1@live.com. And then I'll repeat it one more time. charlesrodriguez1@live.com. And then just send me an email if you want to learn a little bit more. And then I'll definitely hit you up. And also Eric will be around.
Right. So more videos to come.
Yes.
I'll be featuring Charles again in the future.
Yes.
But thank you for watching. Please subscribe and have a great day. Stay healthy.
Peace out, guys.